Welcome back to the Bud Light Southern Power Poll here on SouthernPigskin.com. Jim Johnson, Ben Troop. Fairly eventful weekend. There was some stuff happening in the Power Poll. Now, not at the top. I know we had a big move last week where Alabama jumped Clemson. That stayed the same. Both those teams took care of business against teams that they should obviously have outclassed, which they did. Moving on down to LSU, they stay at 3. They're off this week. They hammered Vanderbilt offensively. Now, they did give up 38 points. There was a defensive touchdown. I think Randall Haney had a pick 6. But Joe Burrow, 6 touchdowns, 4 of them to Jamar Chase. This new offense is absolutely the real deal.
Joe Burrow is probably playing the best football right now in college football, taking nothing away from, Tua, taking nothing away from Trevor Lawrence, taking nothing away from Jonathan Taylor and all these different guys who Heisman Trophy front runners. Joe Burrow is the man. I think he had 6 touchdown passes. Was kind of taunting, which I don't know if you can really taunt, Vanderbilt players. But man, great showing by him. People kept talking about Joe Burrow this, Joe Burrow that. Joe Burrow is balling right now. And anybody that got those guys on the schedule, man, anybody can get it. We ain't even talking about Leonard Fournette, the brother of Leonard Fournette, because, hey, man, Joe Burrow and the LSU Tigers balling right now.
And Georgia played in certainly the biggest game of the weekend. I don't know if it was the best. Obviously, the ending was really compelling.
Yeah.
But for the first half, pretty boring game. Here's the thing. To me, some of the storylines surrounding it are framed by the expectation going in. Vegas had the line as 2 touchdowns. And granted, if not for a muffed punt, if not for a couple mistakes and granted, I thought Georgia played well, but if not for a couple mistakes, Georgia well could have covered that line. The point is, they beat a really good team. Notre Dame is one of the 10 best teams in the country. And while offensively, Georgia didn't run the ball like we're used to, both DeAndre Swift and Brian Herrien still averaged over 5.5 yards per carry. And they were facing 7- and 8-man boxes where Notre Dame was playing cover 0. The thing is, there might not be another team on the schedule with a secondary like Notre Dame's that's going to be able to get away with playing cover 0 against a quarterback the caliber of Jake Fromm, at least not and live to tell the story.
The thing about Notre Dame, man, listen, give him a lot of credit. The moment wasn't too big for him. Ian Book did all he could to keep him in the game. That tight end for Notre Dame had a monster game, even though that one-handed snag, really wasn't for him. That's what happened. Look, man, the ball is in my vicinity. I'm gonna go up there and grab it. But Georgia, the score didn't really show how well Georgia played. On both sides of the ball, they controlled the second half. Very, very lackluster first half, but Notre Dame was ranked number 7 for a reason. They took Georgia to the test. And did we really want a double-digit game? And the game was out of hand. You was forced to watch the whole game. Couldn't turn away. 10-7 first half. Georgia was able to have their win in the second half. Georgia is balanced on offense. Not really a number 1 receiver, a bunch of number 2 receivers, Jim, man, but Jake Fromm is still Jake Fromm. But I thought Notre Dame handled themselves very, very well, man, and they brought the best out of Georgia, but Georgia still came out with a W.
One of the most impressive performances of the weekend to me was Auburn's showing against Texas A&M, where they dominated the trenches on both sides of the ball. We knew Auburn's defensive line was elite. We thought Auburn's offensive line could be. They returned all 5 starters from last year's team. That was a group that started off a little shaky last year, consistently got better as the year went on, and have continued that progression into 2019.
Look, man, if you haven't played Auburn yet and seen Brown and those guys at that defensive line, they take up double teams. They live in the backfield. And this is a guy by the name of Bo Nix. Freshman quarterback for Auburn, only had like 100 yards, through the air, but they protect him. He protects the football, and the team plays well around him. You got a young guy in Bo Nix. You don't want to take his confidence from him by putting everything on his shoulders and forcing him to win. Auburn plays well, man. And once that defensive line gets going, it seems like it's 10 of them out there, man. You cannot, stop those guys. Still a big head scratcher when it comes to Kellen Mond. Don't really know what's going on with him. Had a pretty good game, statistical-wise, but, hey, man, big win for Auburn, man. Gus Malzahn, man, got something going with them Auburn boys right now.
Ben, your Florida Gators took care of business against a Tennessee team that is reeling. They are still holding strong at 6. With Texas A&M dropping, we had them at 7. They have now lost 2 games. They moved down to 10. Wake Forest from the ACC now jumps into that number 7 spot. Virginia's at 8. Wake is going to Boston College this weekend. That should be a win, but that's not a gimme.
Yeah.
But Virginia now, with Notre Dame coming off a loss against Georgia, travels to South Bend to take on the Irish.
I think Virginia's playing well. I think they're going to get Notre Dame, a very, very hungry Notre Dame team that showed. Listen, you lose to Georgia, That's going to happen most of the time. You lose to Georgia at home at night, and you take them all the way to the brink. That gives you a lot of confidence, even Notre Dame, who I still think is ranked in the top 10 nationally. UVA, a good team that plays well on both sides of the ball. They're going to get the best out of Notre Dame, and Notre Dame understands we can ill afford to lose again. We can ill afford to lose another game, but I think it's going to be a better game that most people give it credit for. UVA travels well, too. Those guys travel with a good defense, but I do think Notre Dame and UVA are going to be a good one, but I am looking forward to see what them UVA boys bring to the table when they get to South Bend.
And after Auburn beat Texas A&M last week, they will now play Mississippi State. They're going to host Mississippi State. Mississippi State coming off of a convincing win over Kentucky. And I think this could be probably the best SEC game of the weekend. Should be, at least.
I mean, the thing about Mississippi State is this, man. I mean, Coach Moorhead and those guys. I mean, they do a good job of making sure they stay balanced. I mean, Mississippi State always finds a way to have a good defense. I mean, this time last year they was loaded at defense, man. But those guys, definitely pack a punch on that defensive side of the ball. I do agree, man. Mississippi State is a team that, unfortunately for them, man, they had to play in that daunting, SEC West. Kentucky is a team that's doing all they can to stay afloat right now. But I do think Mississippi State and Kentucky are going to be a better game than people give it credit for. Watch out for the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Duke stays at 11, had an off week last week. They will play at Virginia Tech on Friday. And our new number 12 team, first Sunbelt team of this year, debuting Appalachian State, coming off of a statement win against UNC.
You better put some respect on them App State boys' name. I mean, the thing about it is this. Yes, App State, I apologize. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I was drinking that Mac Daddy juice. I'm thinking, okay, App State said UNC, no problem. And they still got South Carolina. They might be able to take care of both powerhouse of the ACC an old powerhouse of the ACC. But Appalachian State, one thing about it, Jim, and they're going to run the football. They're going to play stifling defense. And the thing about App State is this. You let App State stay in the game long enough, they'll find a way to put you away. Did that this weekend. Shout out to them App State boys. I'm shutting it down and getting a big dub this weekend.
Ben Troop, I'm Jim Johnson. This has been your Bud Light Southern Power Poll on SouthernPigskin.com.